Welcome to the Inner Huddle, the podcast for parents and coaches to help children fulfill their potential both on and off the pitch.
Hello and welcome along to Series 2 of the Inner Huddle, episode 10. I'm Pez, he's Geoff, and together we are Pez and Geoff, and we are the hosts of your favourite football podcast. Well, we hope it's your favourite, don't we, Geoff?
Yeah, it's got to be up there in your top 10 at least.
It goes Peter Crouch, the Inner Huddle, doesn't it? I think in most people's back catalogue of what they listen to. Anyway, it's the final episode of Series 2, Geoff. How do you feel about that? Don't be honest, lie, say you're gutted.
Yeah, I'm really sorry it's coming to an end, Series 2.
Well, you know, Christmas is coming, busy period, and then it'll be a new year before we know it. And then we'll get stuck into Series 3, which we might do a slightly different format, maybe throw in the occasional ones with the 10 questions, which actually we were doing so long, reduced to about 8, didn't they, as we went along. But we'll try and get a few more guests on and things like that. So if anyone does want to come on as a guest, rather in person, but can do via Zoom, then get in touch with us.
This is a very special episode, though, episode 10, Series 2, because...
Why, thank you, Geoff. Well, yes, regular listeners will know that it's been a standing joke about my book that I've been writing for about 10 years. Well, I finally picked it up and it's out and available. And we have a copy in front of us, don't we? Should we hold them up for the camera for those who are watching on YouTube? It's out. How do you feel about that, Geoff?
Yeah, very excited for you, and already seeing some nice feedback on social media. I've just been scrolling through my phone for 2 minutes and seeing 2 different posts saying how amazing you are, really.
No, not me, the book.
Well,
it's different.
It's your work in the book.
Well, I suppose it's my... it is.
Don't be
my
modest.
Work. Yeah, I suppose. Well, no, it's always very nice. I'm looking at the camera that we're filming on there, and it looks like it's turned just onto you, Geoff. So,
actually looks like it's on you at the moment from my angle.
Does it? Do you think it's all right?
It's in the right.
Do you think I should go and check it?
Go on then.
It's not very professional though, is it?
No.
You could keep talking.
I'll go and check it.
You go and check it while I keep talking. So, the book is called Did You Win, Did You Score? How to Help Your Child Succeed at Football and Life. So it is a book which is mainly about football, but the more I wrote, and the more I've been doing coaching for 20 plus years, I've realised I'm actually more interested and more passionate about children's personal development and their life development and developing life skills and becoming good people than I am actually with football. But I only know about football, so the book had to be based on football really. But it's taken many, many years, but it's finally here. So we thought today what we would do is there are 150 chapters. Jeffrey's got a random number generator in his phone from 1 to 150. And we're just going to push the button and whatever chapter comes up, we're going to have a little read. We're not going to read the whole thing because that would be boring. I don't think if we ever do an audio version of it that I'll be doing it. I don't know if you fancy that, Geoff.
It'll take a long time to get
take
through.
Longer to write it. But yeah, so we'll probably just read out some of the quotes that are in it. There's some bold text in it of the bits that I really think that people should and need to take away from the chapters, and maybe we'll have a little chat about it and see where we go. So it's completely random, completely different to anything else we've ever done. And I wrote it, so I should be able to remember some of the stuff that's in it. But it's quite a hefty old book, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, can I just say before we get started as well, I am an audiobook person, not a reader. I'm not a great reader, am I?
No.
But this is so easy to use and very Geoff friendly, so thank you.
Yeah, well, the idea behind it was it's not just designed to be read cover to cover, some will, but the idea is to look through the 150 chapter lists at the front and go, I don't know, let's take chapter 29, Avoid Chasing the Dream, go, oh, gee whiz, maybe I'm doing that, and then you turn to wherever it is and you'd look at it, or it might say match scripts, and you think, oh, that sounds interesting, we'll go to that one. Does size matter? Think, oh, well, my lad's only small, or he's very large, let's have a look at that one. So whatever is relevant to your child and you as a family, you what resonates with you or you think's interesting, you go to that. So it's more of a reference book as well as a cover-to-cover book. But the chapters are quite short. Some of them are obviously a lot longer than others. Things like the children's rights ones that I've got up here is quite in-depth and extensive. It was the hardest chapter in the whole book to write, by the way, because it's something that you've got to get right. So I hope that doesn't come up on the number generator.
Keep our fingers crossed for a short chapter.
And I didn't want this to be an advert, but it is available on online at the Great British Bookshop. And if you type in my name, Perry Cocking, or Did You Win, Did You Score, you should find it. It is also available on Amazon, but they don't stock it. So you have to scroll down to where it says other selling options on Amazon or other Amazon options, something like that, and you click on that and you'll find it with a decent delivery time, whereas Amazon are putting months on it because they think, oh, we might stock it one day, but aren't at the moment. So that's a top tip for you, but it's the Great British Bookshop is where everyone else seems to be buying it from, including me, because I bought my own copy, which I had a laugh about earlier, didn't we? But yes. Anyway, right, should we get cracking, Jeffrey?
Yeah. Ready for randomise? 1 to 50?
I'm a bit nervous, Geoff. I'm not going to lie. I don't like this sort of stuff.
Little drum roll?
Yeah, go on then.
61.
61. Let's have a look through. I didn't think this through, did we, Geoff? Right, 61. Right, oh, good. Why do children play football is the chapter header. And we have a quote here. It's the child's desire to play that matters, not the parent's desire to have the child play. And that is from Tiger Woods.
He did play a lot of football growing up, didn't he?
He played a lot of football, yes. Actually, Tiger Woods' story for a parent is very interesting because he was pushed and pushed and pushed right to his limit. He even had a safe word that he could say to so his dad would stop pushing him so hard, and he never once said it. So he used to shout out the most awful things at him when he was going to part and just about to tee off and things, and it's just real.
Must be the exception to the rule then.
Yeah, well, Tiger reflects back. He says, yes, that is possibly the reason I got to the heights I did, but it's damaged him for life. So all the problems he's had in his personal life, he puts back to being pushed, and yet all the good things about being pushed. So it's a double-edged sword there. And I don't know, you'd have to ask him, would he do it all again? I'm not sure he would, even for the heights that he achieved. I think he would have rather been an average golfer with a steady career and a much better personal life than he had without the problems. But there we go. You're right, it's a football book. So let's crack on. Shall I just read the opening chapter? Paragraph, sorry. Not chapter.
Do the opening chapter, Pez.
Yeah, that's the idea, Pez. Right, I'll read the opening paragraph. Right. A lot of parents and coaches never actually find out why their children I'm good at this, aren't they? Start again. A lot of parents and coaches never actually find out why their children or children they are looking after actually play the sport. It should be the fundamental starting point for everyone. A great way to aid the whole football journey is to ask your child to list the reasons why they play or give them options to choose from. I used to do this with teams I coached. You can take some ideas from my examples below. You mustn't influence them in any way or try to make changes. There are no wrong answers or choices. It's their choice, their motivation, and therefore is correct to them. Goodness, it's supposed to be a little teaser there. Thoughts?
So, yeah, just what are the kind of things that children tend to say are the reasons they play?
Right, well, shall I try and find them? I'll read a bit more. So I'm missing out a few paragraphs here, but I did this most recently with an under-7s team I was running. I had a list of 10 reasons why children play football, and I asked them to pick their own top 5 reasons. I then asked them to rank those in order from 1 to 5. The 10 options were to score lots of goals, to win matches, to have fun, to make new friends, to learn new things, to win trophies, to be the best player, to be a better player, to be a professional, and to make mum and dad proud. So they were the 10 options that they had, Geoff. I did not prompt them, and I told them that there were no right or wrong answers. This was the group's top 5. Number 1, to have fun. Number 2, to make mum and dad proud. Number 3, to learn new things. Number 4, to be a better player. And number 5, to make new friends. Which really, really surprised me when I did it, and have done it with other teams. And to have fun, every time I've done it, has always become the number one. Interestingly, every player picked to have fun as their top reason, so all of the squad. And the only two reasons not picked once were to win matches and to win trophies. Only one player chose to become a professional. And just to offer some balance to this, that lad is now a scholar at a Premier League club. So there is a balance to be had. But even he chose to have fun as the top one. And I think it is good for children to have ambitions and dreams and desires, but only if it's their own intrinsic motivator. So that was interesting, and then obviously there's a lot more in there about the topic, but I don't want to read it all. But I can read out some of the key takeaway points that I bolded here. So I put, if actions and environments are straying away from these core reasons for playing, you know it's time to make changes and reset. So that was one takeaway. I have never known a young player to start playing football because they want to win trophies or to be a professional. And then the end quote here was from someone called Steve Locker, and he says, before kids can play like a pro, they must enjoy playing the game like a kid. So there we go. A little bit of a teaser for that chapter. It's actually a very interesting one.
Yeah, that's I'm going to probably say this about all of them, but that sounds like it might be one of my favourites.
Oh no, there's more, Geoff. There's 149 other options. Futsal one's got to be your favourite, but go on.
I love the fact that you said most recently, and it was an under-7s team at the time. I'm sure that under-7s team are now under-16s, so that shows how long you've been writing this book for, at least.
Oh yeah, it does, doesn't it? Throws it right up there. And I've also realised I put the group's top 5 in the book, and instead of putting them number them 1 to 5, I've just got bullet points. So I should have done 1 to 5 there, but there we go. Not a bad start, Geoff. Quite easy, I think, to ease us into this. Should we go again? Next one.
Yeah.
So the idea is to give everyone a bit of a teaser of what's in there rather than go too in depth with each one.
Number 44.
44. Oh, just skip past that. Right, okay. Chapter 44. Encourage your child to practice their weaknesses as well as their strengths. And the opening quote is from Tony Robbins, the motivational speaker, which most of you will have heard of, I'm sure. No matter how many mistakes you make or how slow the progress, you're still way ahead of everyone who isn't trying. Cheers, Tone. Right, the opening paragraph. Often children will become good at one aspect of the game and then stick to doing that thing all the time. I've seen it a lot at pre-academy groups I've been involved with, where children have had so much praise for doing something well that they don't want to try anything else in case they don't look as good as they've been told or think they are. Some players develop a fixed mindset and would rather not try something than try it and not be very good at it. So this goes back to one of the main themes in the book, which is developing a growth mindset. Some other takeaways here. I think one of the most important takeaways from this book is the importance of nurturing and developing a growth mindset, which has a chapter of its own, but it is a theme that runs throughout the book. And a growth mindset is where children or people, humans, believe that they can improve through practice and hard work and dedication and all those types of things, whereas a fixed mindset is where children believe that they've been born with natural talents or not naturally talented at things, and they don't particularly like to try things where they're going to get shown up to be not very good, which is disastrous when it comes to fulfilling potential, because they only stick to things that they're good at. Actually, this is one of the interesting chapters in the book, Geoff, where it contradicts the next chapter. Okay. So the next chapter is working on strengths as well as weaknesses.
Yeah.
And that's about how sometimes if you have got a strength, like a great strike or dribbling, that you should sometimes double down on that, and you only actually need to get all the rest of your weaknesses up to a competent level to support what your superpower might be.
This is why I know you said about not necessarily having to read it front to back.
Yeah.
And work your way through, but some of them are going to really overlap and, like you said, contradict each other. And without some of the other information on some of the other chapters, possibly, some of it could be taken out of context, and the context is so important. So that Tony Robbins quote, no matter how many mistakes you make or how slow the progress, you're still way ahead of everyone who isn't trying. Reminds me a bit of Mike Tyson getting up at stupid o'clock in the morning to go for a run because he knows everybody else won't be doing that. No, you can't just take a Mike Tyson quote or that Tony Robbins quote out of context and force your child into doing it. But the last one we just covered was about finding out what it is, the reasons your child does it, and if their reasons for doing it are being met, then they're going to probably set their own targets and goals and
they're
ways
the
to
sort
improve.
of boundaries you're working within.
Yeah.
Is whatever reasons that they wanted to play and what they're trying to get out of it. And there's some great stuff in here about developing goals with your child based on the season and long-term goals, and then doing one as a parent of what you'd like for your child, and then matching them up.
Yeah.
And any ones that match to match goals, and then you concentrate on those together. If that makes sense. I've just tried to do a whole complicated chapter there in one sentence, but we've gone off a bit on a tangent. But yeah, context is important, and it actually reminds me of a Steve Ovett story I heard once. I think I read Steve Ovett's autobiography, and he said that he used to get up on Christmas Day to go training because he didn't think that Steve Cram and I can't remember the other one there was a trio of them that were all competing, so he didn't think the others would go out running on Christmas Day, so he's getting one up on them. And then years later at some function he told the others that, and they sort of turned around and said, "What, you only went out once on Christmas Day?"
Yeah.
And he was like gobsmacked. But yeah, it always reminds me of that. Any other takeaways from here? Yeah, so we've got the important thing though is to always encourage and praise the effort and attempts to try, and that is a running theme throughout the book of it's not about the outcome, and any successful outcome you should praise the backstory of how they achieve. So if they've scored a goal with their left foot and they're a right-footed player, don't, "Oh, great goal, brilliant." You have to say, all that practice is paying off. Well done, you deserve it for the practice. So always include the backstory in your praise, because otherwise children can think that it naturally happened or they're lucky or something like that. But again, a lot more about it in other chapters. And the finishing quote in this chapter was, "Maximum human growth is on the border of support and challenge, which means you need support and challenge in equal measure to grow." And that's by Rob Moore. Whew.
A very good chapter there, Pez.
Yeah, I feel like I should read the whole thing because I feel like I'm selling everyone short, but...
Well, they've got to buy the book.
Yeah,
You've got to stop buying them.
I know. Maybe I'll release some of them as blogs or something at some point. I don't know. Go on.
So, next chapter, randomise.
Yeah.
Chapter number 116.
Here the page is turning. Oh, 116. This one is creatively titled "Pass, Pass, Pass" with exclamation marks. And the opening quote on this one is, "For children to be able to play like adults, then first they need to play like children." And that was one of mine, Geoff.
Perry Cockin.
Yeah, I'm sure there's similar quotes by other people out there.
There's a quote.
Yeah, it's one of mine. I have tried to throw in a few of my own, by the way. Rightly or wrongly, because I do love a quote, as you'll know. And as anyone that reads the book will find out. Right, so the opening paragraph of this is as follows. "A bugbear of mine for many years has been coaches and parents who shout pass, 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 or something similar like release it to the players. It's more common in matches, but I've also known it during training sessions. It's closely followed by shoot and clear it away, which are also on my list of annoying instructions I often hear." I'm going to go on to the next paragraph of this. I think maybe 2's better. "Now, I'm sure these phrases are said with all the best intentions, but they really do more harm than they do good. Sometimes it's just adults who get caught up in the excitement and want to be involved. Sometimes it's adults who are really competitive and want to win, and it can also be a parent shouting at their own child through embarrassment. There are many different reasons, but the point is that they are all adult reasons. The game is played by children for the children. It is, therefore, their game and not the adults. So, because I feel like I've now attacked people for shouting it, and I'm not explaining the reasons why I'm giving it any balance by just reading a couple of paragraphs. Anyway, maybe we'll do this again one day and I'll just read the whole lot. I don't know. But there we go. And another takeaway from here was, I don't think people realise how good players actually need to be individually to be able to play 1 and 2 touch passing football in a team. And a little bit of context with that one is we all want our teams as managers, coaches, parents, even players would like to play like Man City or Barcelona back in the day, 1 and 2 touch passing football. Not staying on it too long, moving the ball quickly, lots of movement, lots of pace. We all know what good football should look like. But there's a reason why not everyone can play like Man City, and it's because the players aren't good enough individually. And unfortunately, to get that good individually, players have to spend thousands and thousands of hours getting technically good with the ball and being on the ball. So you almost have to earn the right through doing loads and loads and loads and loads of touches to be able to play with very few touches and the speed. And again, we did talk about it in the last podcast, didn't we, when Alan Pardew threw me into a training session once and I couldn't believe the speed of it and how technically good you had to be to even be able to think whilst the game was going on. So it is a difficult one because we all want to play that way. And a lot of coaches and managers will restrict players to 1 and 2 touches or shout release it and play the way you're facing and all this kind of stuff. But unfortunately, kids need to be kids, so they need to make those mistakes, hold on to it too long, get tackled, make mistakes in front of their own goal, all of these things if they want to fulfill their potential in the long run. Unfortunately, most people just want to win that game then. So then you're comparing it to the adult game, of which they should play quicker and with less touches and releasing it and playing the way they're facing and all those things. But it can't be forced. It can be guided and it can be worked on in training and things like that where you speak to the player. But you can't force it, Geoff.
Yeah, and this is so important for them to make their own decisions, isn't it, within the game and find out for themselves rather than somebody from the sideline directing it and making their decisions for them. We had it last Wednesday where it's actually not the parents, it was the kids who must have picked up the habit from outside our sessions where they were shouting at each other, release it, release it, release it. Exactly those words. And when we have our little intervals where we have not timeouts but playing quarters or thirds on the match, I just pleaded with them to stop doing it because it might stop somebody having a special moment. And that special moment did come. And,
you know, trust the coach.
Yeah.
You're picking up and you're thinking, probably should be releasing it there.
Yeah.
But I will speak to this child at training or on their own or away from everyone. But I need to see how it pans out as a coach. So I've got the whole picture of my player so I can help that player the best. If they're just playing to the crowd and to instructions, how are you ever going to find out about the player? But it is a difficult one because you all want to win the game. Everyone gets sucked into it. And as an adult, and you know the adult game, you know a player shouldn't be holding onto the ball that long or they should be playing it. You can all see it. But the kids are kids. They're not adults yet. They have to play like kids to become footballing adults.
And that's an adult environment with people on the sideline screaming and shouting, isn't it? It's not a child's environment. It won't look like what a classroom looks like, or it's just no other walk of life. I don't see it happening.
Reminds me of a quote, funnily enough. Something like, don't burn your hut for heat, basically, because as soon as all your firewood's gone, then you're in a worse situation than you were before. So it's the like a short term, let's win this match, let's do everything right in this match now to try and get a result at the detriment of your long-term development. But I admit there has to be a balance, and no one likes a kid that holds onto the ball for too long and dribbles because it means their kid's not getting the ball, and I completely understand that. But it's one of the reasons why we don't produce wonderful dribblers anymore, players that can go around people in this country, I believe, Geoff, because it's been completely coached out of them by managers, coaches and parents, and as you've just said, other kids. So people haven't tried it, they haven't made the mistakes, they haven't learned through trial and error because they've not been allowed to be, so they're just not going to do it. So your Giggses and your McManamans and people that possibly got what they needed on the street back in the day and in the playgrounds, we're not producing anymore, your Gazzers and that, because the environment's all changed, because football's so organised, and if it's organised, people want to win, and then they want to play 1 and 2 touch, and they want to pass. And we just don't. Have we got any dribblers at the moment? Sterling maybe, but I imagine
Foden and Grealish, but there's probably been some better work done in the past 20 years compared to the.
Are they dribblers? Do they beat players? Those two? Do they get round their player?
Not as much as the names you mentioned previously.
No,
not as much.
It's an interesting debate. Anyway, one to be careful of, and one to definitely go to if you do get the book. Cool. There's no end quote in that one. Can you believe it? Should have made one up. You can make one up, Geoff, and I'll stick it in. I'll write it in.
It's too late now.
It's too late now.
All right. Next random question.
Yeah, cool.
Chapter, I should say, not question. 16.
16. Oh,
knock off 100.
Oh, it's a long one.
Oh, should we just do another one?
It's a deep one.
Do another one.
It's a deep one, Geoff. We're going in.
Oh, wow. That is deep.
Yeah, right. Chapter number 16. Try not to live your own dreams through your child. Oh, goodness, this is going to be one I'm going to feel like I should read the whole thing to give it a bit of balance and context. But the opening quote, that's another one by me. God, I didn't do many, I'm sure. Your job as a parent is to give your child the opportunity and support to be themselves. Not a classic, but I did write it. So that's by me. Right, the opening paragraph is this. I just want them to have fun and enjoy it. It's a phrase I have heard many times over, yet often the actions of the person who is saying it don't match up to the statement. This one tends to be mainly dads, but there are a few mums too, who desperately want success for their children. This can be for many reasons, such as having had relatively little success in their own sporting lives, or maybe because the parents are successful in other areas and can't stand the thought of the child looking like a failure. Suddenly, missed opportunities in their own lives or bad luck can be rectified through their child's success. A door that was closed to them long ago is now reopened. Likes and comments can suddenly be plentiful on social media, and the ego can take over. I'm going to have to read the next one. Can't leave it there. I'm attacking again. I seem to start by attacking, don't I, Geoff? And then playing it out on balance as we go along.
Getting on the front foot early, aren't you?
I just feel like I'm just annoying everyone. Next paragraph. Unfortunately, a parent's own identity and purpose can become entangled with the child's achievements, and over time, they can come to rely on them for their own self-worth. In an age where more and more people are searching for purpose and meaning, it's no wonder they are looking for it from their children. They often defend their actions by insisting they are just supporting their child and giving them opportunities often that they never had. Do not presume that your child is a mini-me. They are more than likely very different from you with their own interests and ambitions. Some parents feel a certain amount of pressure to give their children certain advantages, and we all want our children to avoid making the same mistakes we did. And it goes on for quite a few pages, this one, because it is a very important chapter.
I thought you were going to say, and it goes on and
on. Yeah, probably does a bit. I do like repeating myself. That's why it's such a big book. I will read out some of the highlighted bits that I put in there that I think are important takeaways. But again, I've got no context, Geoff, so I hope it doesn't feel like I'm just on the attack. Obsession with outcomes can be dangerous in terms of development. So they're a bit like quotes, these, aren't they? Next one. To achieve desired outcomes properly, meaningfully and lastingly, then there is a process to go through, which is built on a foundation of effort and moulded by making mistakes. Make sure you have your own hobbies and interests, and that your whole life, emotions and happiness don't depend on how your child or their team is doing on the football pitch. Very important one. I've had particularly dads who, when we've lost a game on a Sunday, will say, "That's it, whole day ruined now." And you're like, hang on a minute. It's a kid's game of football, under 7s or under 8s. Go and do something else. Go and have a roast dinner. Go down the pub, watch the match. I don't know, whatever it might be. But your whole day or week or whatever it might be can't be reliant on how your 7, 8, 9, 10 or whatever age did on a football pitch or a futsal court. Sorry, I had to butt in on that one. Right. Next one. Let them play for their own reasons. Let them explore the possibilities for themselves and make their own mistakes. God, there's a few of them, Geoff. Next one. Always remember this is their game and not yours. They play for the love of the game and not for the love of their parents. God, that's a deep one here, Geoff.
Yeah.
This is an interesting one. Never use we when referring to your child's sport. It explains it much better than that in the book. But it's a good tip. Never use we like, "Oh, we should win this one today," or "Oh, we showed that lot today, didn't we, son?" or whatever it might be, which I've heard many times. Never refer to sport as we. It's their sport, it's their game. And unfortunately, you're just facilitating it and supporting them. It's not a we sport. It's their game.
That's a really good one, Pez. I haven't given that much thought before in the past.
I try to think of everything, Geoff. That's why it took about 10 years to write. But yeah, it's an important takeaway. But again, needs the context of what's written with it in the book. Seemed like a good idea doing it this way, but I don't know. Hopefully it's adding some sort of value or sparking an interest. Next one. Some successes might bring parents a certain amount of joy, but the only thing that will truly make them happy is if their child is happy. God, that's another good one. That should have been a quote. Next one. The connection you have with your child is what will make you happy. And then, football as a game is unimportant, but the importance of the life lessons and connections it can build cannot be measured. Should have just done a book of quotes. And then the end quote of this chapter is, "Children were not born to complete your life. They were born to complete their own." That's by William Martin. I really like that one.
Yeah, that is special. That opening quote, the parent quote, "I just want them to have fun and enjoy it." If that's what they want, then going back to what you always say is they just need to match their actions to their words, don't they?
Yeah, I had someone say it just the other night. They said, "Oh, this pro team's seen my lad playing and wants him to go." And we had a long conversation, as you normally do, and he just kept going back to just want them to have fun and enjoy it. But it's an opportunity. But just want to see what happens. But will he ever get another chance? And do you know what I mean? It's like they come back to that default, but they've already kind of made up their minds what they want to do. Happy?
Happy. Next
You're
chapter.
always happy, because if you're happy, I'm happy, Geoff.
Yeah.
And that's important. As he checks his watch. You do know what I mean? Recorded on YouTube.
Yeah.
You can't yawn and check your watch.
Thanks for reminding me.
God, you're not really selling this book, are you? Goodness. Right, go on then, mate. Hit that button.
Randomise. Chapter 98.
98. You like making me flick back and forth in this book. Oh, goodness. Don't even know if I can pronounce this word. I wrote it. Right, chapter, was it 98?
98.
Egocentric, narcissistic, and mastery-centric.
Wow.
Cool. Yeah. This isn't one I'm going to be able to do any value with just by reading out a few little bits, but we'll stick to the plan. The opening paragraph to this is, no matter how great a person is, egocentrism will annihilate that greatness. Opening paragraph. This chapter is very similar to some others, but it's worth re-emphasising the point. If a child is getting adulation and rewards based on outcomes like scoring goals and winning matches, they can be in danger of developing an egocentric or narcissistic attitude. They can develop an entitlement attitude and believe they deserve to win everything. When they don't, they often struggle to cope with their emotions. We all want our children to be competitive in a competitive world, but do not let the competition have a derogatory effect on mastering their sport. Difficulties arise when children have a high ego, competitive nature, and a low mastery attitude. Fixed mindset. So they're the opening 2 paragraphs there. I think it's better with 2. And then a little takeaway I put here. If the child is competitive but lacks the skills and techniques to compete, frustration and the associated emotions can overwhelm them. Again, and of course I'm going to say it because I wrote it, but it's a really important point, and I see this a lot. And you see more and more recently, you get a lot of children that are highly competitive, can't stand losing, want to win, but their skills don't match that competitive spirit. So they're not winning, or they're not competing how they want to compete because they lack the skills or the knowledge, because they don't particularly like training. It comes from a fixed mindset again, and the kids that are like, when's it match time? How many more skills are we going to do? When's it match time? And a lot of boys are like this. Girls are a little bit different from my experience. Boys just want to compete. So you're doing training and skills and development, but some of them are highly competitive and they want to compete. And they think the only way they can do that is by playing matches. And then they get to the matches, and because they haven't put any effort into the training, their skill level lets them down, and so they get frustrated and really overwhelmed by the emotions of that. And I can see it happening more and more and more, and it breaks my heart sometimes. I don't know what you see. You do slightly older children who might have learnt how to control their emotions somewhat, but they end up kicking people or pretending they've got an injury or walking off. And you might recognise this with your own children if you're listening, like the little limp comes in when they've missed a goal or missed an opportunity to score, or they've been tackled or not having a good game, or oh, my knee hurts, or I'm tired, and all the excuses start coming in, and it's a really, really rocky road.
It's almost about managing your expectations a little bit, some of it, isn't it? Like our futsal clubs always mix double age bands, under 11s play with the under 12s and play up a year. So sometimes our under 12s will go and play an under 13s team.
Mm-hmm.
So they're having a real jump, and it's going to be tough because some players have got almost 2 years more experience than them, depending on when they're born in the year and all this kind of stuff, and the size difference at that age, probably especially when we play a girls team, which we've done quite a bit recently in the New Forest League, can be quite big. So the jump is massive. So you might be actually technically very good, but your ego's still taking a dent because that only gets you so far when it's a competitive fixture. And
playing against players who've learned how to win using what attributes they've got.
You might do some nice passes to get around them, but then their recovery runs are much quicker and stronger and faster than yours, and you might do a nice skill to beat a player, but they've got back around before you've got your shot off. So I think it's about sometimes just managing your expectations based on what's everyone else's experience in the room, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, massively.
And I've even with myself and our first team, so adults, we went up to Manchester on Sunday, and then you think about their players' experience and how many internationals they might have and how many hours on a futsal court.
The size of the city and the pool of...
But also, like, their futsal age is a massive thing in futsal, so some of those players would have been playing for 10 years and doing 3 sessions a week in matches all the way through or something like that. And then we've got players that have done a bit of futsal and tipped up expecting to compete at the highest level in the country after doing a 4 or 5 hour drive.
Played a bit of five-a-side before.
And been good at it and had loads of success and scored loads of goals and been the best player in their club or whatever they've done. But and my ego's taken a massive battering over the last 2 years. But sometimes you just got to park it, haven't you, and just think, we keep talking about it, just keep showing up. A winner's just a loser who keeps showing up eventually.
Well, we talked about it the other day, I'm sure we did. Shout out to Luke Ballinger, one of your former players, England's most capped futsal player. We entered the same tournament, I think it was under 10s. They weren't in our group, but he had his lot on one pitch and we were on the other. And his team were really, really struggling in the tournament. And I said to you, even at the time, he's England international. The pressure on him to produce winning teams must be enormous. But he wasn't shouting at the players. He was calm. He was a complete credit, I felt. I learned a lot from that day, because I always felt under pressure. I obviously was coach of Southampton and stuff like that. But even here was in futsal. He was Mr. England futsal, top goal scorer and all of that. And he had to park his ego massively for the best of the children. And always remember that. Big shout out to Bally. I expect he's still playing for someone somewhere.
What futsal?
Probably.
He's just come back out of retirement.
Oh, has he? Again?
Yeah, I think so.
Brilliant. Well, you're a long time retired, so.
Yeah.
Right. I think that was the end of that one.
Partly egos, move on, yeah?
Partly egos, move on, mate.
Right, randomise. 145.
Oh, mate, this is going to be tough, because this is in the skills acquisition section at the back. So at the back of the book, there is individual practices, training at home, and skill acquisition section. And we've got a quote from Arsene Wenger here. If you have no technical skill at 14, you can forget it. You will never be a football player. So that's the opening part.
That? I can't see that.
Oh, no, that's not on that bit. I was just reading what the section is. So
okay.
this start bit is, so then from chapters 142 to 149 are all about individual practices, training at home, and skill acquisition, which, dare I say it, parking the ego, that's what we specialise in, what we're best at, what we focus on, I would have thought. What was the number? 145.
145. So I can see a Cristiano Ronaldo quote, which is why I was so confused.
Yeah, not an Arsene Wenger quote. Why you should encourage your child to practice ball mastery moves as much as possible. Cristiano quote, talent without hard work is nothing. It's one of his famous ones that you see all over the place. But I'll read a few. Because they're small ones, I'll read the opening 3 paragraphs here. In my opinion, the ratio for children's football development should be 3 training sessions for every match. This is rare, so getting extra practice is vital to fulfilling potential. I will expand on that a little bit. I think I've always said and believe training's more important than football. Matches will get you experience and develop your football IQ and some instinct, but it doesn't give you enough actual contact time with the ball to get good at football. So to get the right balance, I believe probably about 3 training sessions for every match, which with players playing on a Saturday and a Sunday nowadays, impossible. So if you really want your child to fulfill their potential, you really should be facilitating some other form of practice at home, if you can, and if their enjoyment allows, and if they want to. But it is a problem, and as I've said already today, and I've said a million times, back in the day, they used to get this contact time with the ball in the playgrounds at break time, with a tennis ball, whatever it might be, in the playground or on the school field. And they used to, we, Geoff, because we probably did it, although I'm a bit older than you, meet with your mates after school until it got dark, playing in the street, down the rec, back down to school, playing on the fields there, and all these things have gone. Why pretend to be Ronaldo and Messi in the playground now when you can go home and be Ronaldo and Messi on your PlayStation and Xbox? So that's just to give it a little bit of context, because even back in the day, I didn't have 3 training sessions for every match that I did, but I would have made up for it by playing with my mates. That's gone. So now, to develop to the level that a lot of you probably want your children, or at least give them the opportunity to, probably need to facilitate a little bit more practice. Right, I went off on one there, Geoff. Next paragraph. The idea of individual isolated practices is a theme that has come up many times in this book. It is not a coaching book, so I will not delve too deeply into the science and the arguments for and against it, although there's a chapter about that coming up. But I will say that all the players who have used them over my 20 years in the game have benefited massively. Now that's a fact, isn't it, Geoff? I see every day how much they work, and for some people to dismiss them is foolish, in my opinion. Briefly, there are some that argue the merit of individual practices as they are linear and have no decision-making or game-related context involved. There are no opponents with cues or triggers to react to, so it is, therefore, pointless, as everything has to be relearned in game situations. I understand this theory, but in my experience, those who practice individually massively accelerate the learning opportunities afforded to them in game situations and practices. So doing the practices accelerates all the stuff that these people would rather they did, in my opinion. But again, I wish I could read it all because it's something that I'm passionate about, which is why it's got its own section. And there is a paragraph about opposition to individual isolated practices, which is number 147. But I will read out some of the highlighted takeaways. So, technical practices need to be used to help accelerate the learning and development that match-based games offer. Players who practice individually with the ball tend to move well and have quick feet. There's a misconception that individual practices are just fancy skills and are only for players who want to showboat. Training the basics through repetition builds competence and confidence. Practicing builds up the internal knowledge bank. The more in the bank, the more the brain can access that knowledge subconsciously, leaving the conscious mind to make important decisions on the pitch. I like that one. It is my opinion that learning the fundamentals and doing isolated practices affords players a certain spontaneity and freedom that other players don't get. And the end quote for this chapter is, "You have to work hard in the dark to shine in the light," by Kobe Bryant.
Oh, what a great quote.
Yeah, love that one.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's on posters somewhere as well. Cool. Leave that one there because I could just talk all day about the importance of individual practices and technical development.
We've known each other a long time.
We have known each other a long time. It's your birthday yesterday, Jeff, by the way. Happy birthday.
Thanks very much, mate.
That's all right. Did you see the post I put up about you?
Yes, it was very, very sweet and very kind.
There was quite a lot of photos in there, wasn't there? There could have been many, many more.
Many memories.
Sorry, carry on.
It's just over those years, we've seen it dismissed so many times. And
boring, isn't
it? Like you say, it works. And people say, if you chuck enough mud at a water stick and all these different things, people have said to dismiss it as if it's some kind of fluke when players go on and play for pro teams from our tiny, tiny, tiny little rural villagey area that we're both from, isn't it? And then, in the past month, players have played for England under 20s, Georgia under, was it 18s, and USA, I don't know what that squad was.
It's for the Pan Am Games. It was the men's squad, but I think it has to be under 23s. So the Pan American Games, Pan Am,
and all similar ages, about 2-3 years apart between those three players, and they've all come through doing hours and hours and hours of individual repetition work.
Well, the one thing they had in common was that they all did that training.
Yeah, and
they all did it.
We're not seeing those stats from anywhere else in our area, are we? So
no,
it works. So don't dismiss it, even if you think you've read something that dismisses it well, because we see it, like you said, on a daily basis, weekly basis.
The difficulty is, Geoff, it is a difficult thing to do for coaches and managers because it takes a lot of practice and studying yourself to learn how to do it and what to do. So I think a lot of coaches and managers and parents and things are looking to dismiss it. So they'll latch on to anything that's said and go, yeah, I knew that was rubbish. Freddie Ljungberg, heard him speaking just yesterday about Haaland, saying it's not fancy step overs or learning to do the L turn like all these kids do. He uses his power, his strength, his pace over 5 yards, and he's intelligent, and his first touch is brilliant. His second touch is brilliant. I think he was talking about a goal. I'm not sure which one it was. Maybe the one against Liverpool. And he hits it early before the keeper's set. And he says, for me, that's technique. He said if he decided to do a step over someone in there, the defender would have recovered and he wouldn't have scored. So, well, yeah, I get it, but we don't know what Haaland was like as a kid. He might have spent thousands of hours with the ball, like we've already said, doing L-turns and step-overs and exploring with the ball. Be very boring, his training, if all he ever did was touch and hit. So I'm sure he would have spent thousands of hours as a kid exploring, experimenting and playing with a football, doing L-turns and step-overs and flip-flaps and whatever else. Doesn't mean he has to use them in a game, just means he's confident now and he's competent with the ball to an exceptional level. So he's earned the right, through practice, trial and error, individually, he's earned the right to do what he wants, basically, and play as few touches as he wants, to hit it early. But I don't know, again, it was a snippet, and when I saw it, I thought, yeah, I get that, that's fine. But I know people are latching on to comments like that, saying, so yeah, you don't need all those fancy flicks and tricks and step-overs, but kids need to be engaged because they're children. So you need to give them things to go and have touches of the ball. Like when we give our kids some skills to go and do, we're not bothered if they never use them in a match, or even if they don't master that skill. What we are bothered about is that they're exploring that skill and they're getting touches of the ball and they're trying and they're moving and they're experimenting, making loads of mistakes, and it's improving their balance and coordination. And they might decide, that flip-flap's not for me, I'll never get that, so what? But just by trying it, they're improving as a player. If you just said, all I want you to do, guys, is play 2-touch football and do shooting practice because that's what the game's about, you'd lose a load of kids.
You're going back to another one of the chapters, and also almost letting the child make their own decision there again, isn't it? Like, given the opportunities and ideas to explore, and then it's up to them to dismiss it, not a parent or a Freddie Lundberg who played with Thierry Henry and Dennis Bergkamp, by the way, who very different types of players to Haaland, in my opinion. And how technically skillful was Thierry Henry? He might not have used thousands of different skills all the time, but very, very technically comfortable with the ball and capable of probably doing anything he wanted. I've seen him on Nike adverts doing Rabanas from behind a goal that spin back and go in. So is that going to be useful when he was playing for Arsenal or Barcelona or France? Probably not, but thousands of hours exploring with the ball and working it out on the streets and everything that goes with it. Yeah,
and I think with your L-turns, and I would say it because that's what he used, and your step-overs, okay, we teach them in isolation, but we do it in a way that we've built up over years of expertise. So we break things down to minimum, learn the parts, put it back together. In the book I call it, I think it's whole part, whole skill acquisition, and then unopposed, opposed, throw in some randomness and some chaos, and then the final piece of jigsaw is you've got to give them the environment and the culture where they can then try those in matches and learn for themselves. So a kid might practice the flip-flap and do all of these things. He tries it in a match, doesn't work. He's never likely to try it again if the coach shouts out, don't try that there, those fancy skills. In fact, we warn some of the players, if you try this in a match and it doesn't work, you'll probably get shouted at by your manager and the parents. So, yeah, I mean, I always say it's a difficult one, but it is a difficult one. But we know that it works, and it's not about the skill, it's not about the flip-flap. Couldn't care less if a kid never did a flip-flap. I'm not teaching a kid the flip-flap to do a flip-flap in a match. Teaching them to get comfortable with the ball and build their confidence, and if they choose to do it, they probably could. It's not about showboating. But again, I'll say it, you need the environment where they can then go and try it in matches, find out what works and what doesn't for them, learn through trial and error, discard what they don't like, what they're never going to use. I mean, I don't think Charlie Webster at Chelsea and now Herveen on loan, and Vaughan at Hull City, and Kean Tideman, Finn Tonks, George Chibanidze are throwing out flip-flaps, rainbow flicks, step-overs in the matches that they do. I mean, Finn's a modern fullback, up and down the pitch, works really hard, very technically good on the ball, can get the ball forward, get their team up the pitch. His dad sends me loads of clips of him. I have not seen a step over, a rainbow flick, a flip flat, but those are the sort of things he was doing with us.
They've all got a mindset to have a challenge and achieve through hard work,
which you can develop through skill training.
Exactly that.
So yeah, you're developing the mindset as well as the actual.
That's absolutely what it's done for all of them, isn't it?
So you can show a kid a flip flap, couldn't care less whether they ever use it, but you could care that they're trying something that they can't already do and practicing it until they can get some sort of competence with it.
Working through the frustration and the difficult
exactly
times.
That, because it's the mindset. So to dismiss it as, oh, well, you don't want to see players doing that and trying things like that, and is it useful? Well, it depends what you're trying to get the use out of it for, and even if it's just getting comfortable with the ball and building confidence, it all has a use. God, I could talk about it all day, that passionate about it. Yeah. Anyway, hit that button, Geoff. I reckon we've got time for a couple more.
1, 2, 9.
Please be an easy one. You can hear the pages flicking. I'm doing that for effect, by the way.
Wish I was.
Chapter 129, Scanning, Playing on the Half Turn and Football Intelligence. And the opening quote is, there are so many players in football with great talent, but their actual understanding of the game is poor. And that's the difference between good and great, is getting the decisions right, which is key in football. Jamie Carragher.
I wished you'd have done that in his accent. That would have been much more interesting.
Hey, right, kid. Right. That was a bit more Mancunian, wasn't it, the Scouts? Anyway, right, the first couple of paragraphs. Although primarily not a coaching book, it's worth mentioning how important it is that your child plays on the half turn and develops the habit of scanning. Scanning is the term used for looking around and taking in what's around them. This particularly includes looking over the shoulders to get a complete picture. Players who do this will be aware of opportunities for action or areas of possible danger. The best players seem to have a lot of time on the ball. They do this by continually scanning so they can assess the best possible action to take in advance. It's a habit that can be developed over a period of time and really will help your child to fulfil their potential. A player who doesn't scan will have to wait until they've got the ball to make decisions. These are usually immediate reactions and slow the game down. A player who scans will be aware of the possible actions available to them even before they have got the ball. Rather than always reacting to things, they are making things happen themselves. And it goes on and on and on. Actually, it's quite a short chapter. But yes, teaching players, if you're going to do stuff at home with your kids or play in the playground or just shoot with them in the garden, just be aware that if you can say, scan, so they're looking over their shoulders before they do actions, so it becomes a habit, will lift your child to another level when it comes to match time, because they'll be taking in action, taking in what's around them and knowing what's possible actions before they get the ball. I think that's right.
Yeah, and head up or scan is a great way to solve the problem of people shouting release it or pass, which was the other chapter we covered earlier, isn't it? It's just a trigger for them to make their own decisions rather than telling them to pass the ball.
I wish there was a different word to scan, because it's been a bit overused, and I know players now who just literally, and this is for the benefit of people on YouTube, just literally turn left and right, and they don't actually look at what's around them. That's why in the individual practices I've done over the years, I try and maybe stand behind them, there's holding cones up or fingers up, and they have to scan and shout out.
One player in particular where it's just so obvious, and I can't believe his coaches hadn't picked him up on it before we did.
Swivel head.
Yeah, it was just turning his head. He may as well have had his eyes shut.
Yeah, not doing it for any purpose.
If anything, it was just knocking himself off balance. That's how much he was exaggerating, chucking his head round to the side. It wasn't any benefit to him at all, was it?
Can you remember during lockdowns when I bought a strip of disco lights, an ancient one, and they come on randomly, and that's so that I could put it behind a player so I didn't have to be close to them, and then could do the skills, and then they would scan over their shoulders, and whatever colour it was, they'd either have to shout it out, or if it was green, they might have to go and run around the green cone.
How have those sessions worked out for you, all right?
Yeah, really, really good.
I've done it loads.
Well, I chose writing the book over doing one-to-ones for a long time, but I still have the lights. So you're more than welcome to borrow them. But it's a good idea, but you can do it with cones. Like I say, you can even hold your fingers up and just get players to scan over and shout how many fingers you've got. So they're actually scanning for a purpose, and it's better if they can scan for a purpose and then have to react to whatever they've seen as well. So it's all stages of development. But just encouraging them before they shoot or receive the ball, even in a kickabout, to look over their shoulder, because then it determines what they're going to do with their first touch. Otherwise, a lot of players just get it, stop it, then try and decide what to do. Doesn't matter how good they are, bang, someone will be on them, especially as they go up through the levels. And it goes on to talk about playing on the half turn and football intelligence. So
please read the final quote, because it's from a silky smooth man.
It's one of my very few in life, apart from you, man crushes. This is from Andrea Pirlo. Football is played with the head. Your feet are just the tools.
That even just feels like he's playing football, doesn't it, when you read that quote out?
Yeah.
Love him.
What a man. I read his autobiography, actually. Fantastic.
Going back to the last chapter, you can only do that if you've done lots of technical work, and
yeah, your tools have to be pretty good.
Yeah, you can't be thinking about everything else that's going on if your technique's letting you down. So it, again, all links into each other.
I could be the best shed maker in the world, but if I've got no nails and a hammer, mate, it's just not going to happen, is it? I love a quote, don't I? The randomest things just pop into my head.
You would be the worst shed builder I've
even,
ever met.
Even with a hammer.
You've seen the Simpsons episode where it's like he's drawn it out and he forgets to put the door on.
Yeah, or upside down.
This little happy camper is the sun.
It would be me. Right, we've hit an hour. Should we go for one more, Geoff?
One more.
Okay.
Randomise. 1, 3, 3.
We don't have to go too far.
No.
1,
it's just around the
3, 3. Ooh, I said that almost everyone. Ooh. Right. Chapter 133. The child with big dreams and ambitions.
It's another deep one, Paz.
It's another deep one, yeah.
Deep one.
But it's a nice one, I feel. This is the opening quote. Let children dream. Dreams cost nothing. For when they dream, they soar above the madness called life. And I would love to read this guy's name out. Dedu Deji Cornelius.
Done well there, I think.
Yeah, I think I've given it as good a go as I'm ever going to give. But I really love that quote.
Yeah.
Whoever you are. Right, first 2 paragraphs. It is fantastic for your child to have dreams. It is their right to have ambition and dreams, however difficult they might be to achieve. Why shouldn't a child dream of achieving something amazing? It's much better to have high ambitions and fall short than to have low ambitions and hit. Oh, that's not bad, that, Geoff. A child's dream should never be squashed. It is important, though, that you explain that those dreams are just outcomes, future goals. They don't exist yet and will not magically happen. There are processes that need to be gone through to achieve those goals. How hard those processes are depends on the goal or ambition. The great news for them is that, although the outcome might be out of their control, the process of how to get there is controllable. There's a way of giving themselves the best possible chance of achieving their goal. By setting small, controllable, process-orientated goals, they can fulfill their potential and achieve their dreams, whatever they may be. They are also accountable for their own actions, or lack of them, towards achieving those goals. And there's other chapters on goals. Do you know what, Geoff? I'm going to read the whole one of this. It'll be the last one, and I'm going to finish the whole chapter. This will all break down, though, if those goals are forced upon them. They have to be their own goals, dreams and ambitions, and not yours. Never force your child to achieve their own goals either. Help facilitate and support them, but never force them. It's simply your job to remind them that they might not be matching their actions to their ambitions. Goals help you to give them a positive push when needed, by reminding them of their ambitions. Letting them take ownership of their goals and the processes and letting them know that you believe that they can achieve them is very powerful. Try not to get carried away and let your child think that you believe that they will play in the Premier League one day. But make sure that your child knows that you believe it is possible for them to achieve all the short-term process goals needed along the way if that's what they want to do. Encourage those dreams, but make sure they're aware that to be achieved, they have to commit, persevere, and work hard and smart. More about goal setting can be found in chapter 81. And the finishing quote, all our dreams can come true if we just have the courage to pursue them. Walt Disney. One of my favourites, Walt Disney, by the way.
That's my favourite chapter that we've looked at.
Well, because we read the whole thing, probably.
No, it's just brilliant.
Well,
absolutely brilliant.
it's also, out of context, a bit contradictory to some of the other stuff, because it's not all about playing in the Premier League and winning the FA Cup. But kids have always dreamt about scoring a winning goal in the FA Cup, and that's their right, and so they should.
Yeah.
And we have to explain that, although unlikely, if that's what you want to do, this is how you do it. This is the pathway, and it's a rocky pathway, and it's difficult, but we'll help you see how far you can get. And I wrote that chapter because I'd seen some Twitter post somewhere, I don't know, dismissing children's ambitions of playing at a high level and stuff like that. Well, why shouldn't they? If my kid says to me, he's not likely to now because he's 14, but want to be an astronaut or want to be a train driver, you shouldn't go, don't be stupid, it's not going to happen. You'd say, yeah, why not? That's nice, son. You shouldn't take away their dreams, and you should facilitate things and help them, and why not? Everything that was achieved in life was a dream once. Is that another quote? Can I put that in that blank space from earlier?
Yeah.
It's true though, isn't it?
Yeah.
This book would never have been written if it wasn't a dream or an ambition, and loads of people said shouldn't do it. They wouldn't be able to get enough content for it. I think I proved that wrong with how many pages? 450. There wouldn't be a market for it, etc., etc. We still don't know about that.
Plenty of people have believed in you though too, haven't they? Which is
exactly.
Here, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Lots of people, including you, Geoffrey. So I always appreciate your help and support.
A lovely chapter for your usual sign-off as well.
Yes, it is. Is you hinting that we're done now and you have to get off to your coaching session?
No, I just think it's perfectly linked back to the first chapter that we looked at today, and then
it's a nice
falls into your
nice way to finish. If you are interested in the book, and there are more quotes and some random bits from chapters on my Facebook page, which is Perry Cocking Author, so you can go there and like that, and there's links to the book there. Feel free to contact me and ask me any sort of questions that you like. As I've said, it is available at the Great British Bookshop, dead easy to find, and if you want to buy it through Amazon, make sure you scroll down to other Amazon buying options or something like that. I should be clear on that, but you'll find it there. Click on that and then you'll find the link, which is also through the Great British Bookshop, but it might be easier for you to purchase that way, because the one that's listed as the top one on Amazon, because they try and corner the market, has got an unrealistic delivery time because they don't stock it yet, but they might even do an ebook next year, Geoff. We shall see. It's good to have ambitions and dreams, isn't it, mate?
And this podcast was sponsored by you, I'm guessing.
Oh, yeah.
How much money you spent on this room.
And in other news, today's episode was sponsored by Did You Win? Did You Score? How to Help Your Child Succeed at Football and Life by Perry Cocking. Out now in all good... No, it's not. Although I think there are other places you can get it if you search for it. But there we are, Geoff. Enjoyed that.
Did you win, did you score? We haven't discussed what the meaning is behind the title of the book, because it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, isn't it?
It is a little bit tongue-in-cheek, because when I wrote it, I imagined sort of my life, where I might have come home from football. My dad didn't tend to come and watch, my oldest brother did, and he might bring me in, and then I go into the kitchen, and my mum would be doing something in there, and first thing she'd say to me was, did you win? Did you score? And I imagine, and I have it on good authority, that's pretty much what most people say to their children when they haven't seen them play. Even at training, did you win, did you score? And it's actually quite detrimental, although it seems silly, but phrases like that can be quite detrimental to children's development, because I used to come in and my mum would go, did you win, did you score? And I go, no. No, I didn't. We lost 5-0, Mum. Cheers, thanks for asking. Oh, that's nice, dear, and all that. And you go away and you'd think, geez, I need to be in a team that wins, or I need to score, or nobody's bothered. And then in the next game, I wouldn't pass. I, try and dribble around everyone, and I shoot from everywhere so I could go home to Mum and go, yeah, I scored. And I know it sounds a bit petty, but it is that type of question, amongst others and other things that don't help. Much better thing to ask, Geoff, is something like, did you enjoy it? Obviously, which seems a bit woo-wah, but were you competitive today is what I asked my child, even at boxing. So if he's been sparring, say, it's like, did you win your spar? It's like, did you knock him out?
When he's come home with 2 black eyes.
Said, were you competitive though? Because you can be competitive whether you win or you lose.
Yeah.
Whether you score or you don't. Were you competitive? There's a great chapter in the book actually about the difference between working hard and competing. It's one of my favourites. So anyway, I hope we've piqued some interest in some people. Obviously, it's a bit of a blatant advert for it as well, but I wouldn't do that if I didn't think that people who read these wouldn't get benefit, and I think you'll get massive benefit from some of it, if not all of it. I would also like to say that it does appear that I attack quite a few people, but it's just my job to point out what might be, and then it's a parent's job to decide then when they've got all the information what they want to do. So there's chapters in the book like, don't mark your child out of 10. Someone asked me the other night, actually, you were there, Geoff.
Yeah, I was.
Last week.
Yeah, this time.
Parents said, how did they do out of 10? And I was like, I can't do that. And then I said, there's a chapter in my book about this. I said, because what if I give them a 9? And then next week they've been brilliant, but I only give them an 8 because the context is different. And they're going to go away disappointed. But they might have worked harder with the 8 than they did on the 9. There's too much context involved. So never mark your child out of 10. Probably need more explaining than that, but it's in the book. Again, paying children for goals, £5 a goal today, or if you get a hat-trick, we'll stop for a McDonald's. Don't do it. It's all explained in the book. But these little things that you can read in the book, and you might go, well, actually, I'm aware of that now, so I'm not going to do it all the time, but I might do it occasionally. Or you can say, no, I think you're wrong. I'm going to carry on doing that, but there might be other parts of the book that you think, oh no, I never didn't even think of that, and you might implement some of that in there. So it's not a Bible, you must do this, but it's just to make people aware, and through awareness comes better decision making.
It's absolutely brilliant, mate, and you should be very, very proud of yourself.
Yeah, pride's not an emotion I do very well.
No, but
I don't know why. I don't really feel it. Maybe I will one day. I had this conversation with someone the other day about what are you most proud of, and actually the only thing I really, really feel proud of is the work that you and I did during lockdown. A feeling of pride.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say, I'm proud of the book, proud of the podcast, proud of Charlie and all of that, but the real feeling of proudness is that work
actually
we did during lockdown.
Difference, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think you've always.
It was our
that.
time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because it was what we do, was the individual practice, and having 25 children all on Zoom and more, seeing all their faces and in corridors, kitchens, bedrooms, back gardens, and still being able to improve them as footballers was, I get a lot of feeling of pride for that. But yes, I am proud of the book. Thank you, Geoff. I'm proud that you're proud.
I am very proud of you, mate.
We're waffling now. So I hope you get it. I hope you like it. And it's got great forwards by Danny Mills, former England international and Premier League player, and Andy Reid, former Republic of Ireland international and Premier League player. So 2 friends of mine that I was at Charlton Athletic with many, many years ago have had a look at the book and done some nice forwards for me. So we'll leave it there, Geoff.
Don't forget to sign off, Pez.
I shall not, because you never should forget that football isn't that important, but children are. And we will see you next time.